Yeah, I mean, it's a very complicated situation because I think there's been a debate inside the communist left. I mean, just a few days after the ceasefire, there was a huge demonstration led by the communist parties in Calcutta. They marched, I think, down Charangi or somewhere. It's a very large demonstration against war, against jingoism, against, the attacks at Muslims in the country and whatnot. I thought that was a powerful demonstration. I think the Kisan Sabha statement was very strong anti-war statement. I think, the party statements were what they were. I mean, people have read them. Uh, I would have liked a much stronger clearer statement saying that, look, firstly, the war you're going to prosecute is not about justice for Pelgam. Let's just separate these things, because what happened in Pelgam was a terrible terrorist attack. Yeah, totally condemn it. Everybody condemned. Of course, it was condemned. How can you not condemn something where people are with gunpoint asked, "What's your religion?" It's like a Sadat Hassan Manto story. I don't know if you know the story Mistake. I mean, Manto writes these stories about during the partition, people who asked, lift up your lungi, show me if you're circumcised. No, bang. That sort of thing. Horrible, horrible, ghastly. But a left party should ask, how do we know who conducted this? If we don't have intelligence that it's going to happen, how do you have intelligence about who they were? How are you so sure? Like, we want to find out who did it in order to prevent it happening again. Attacking Pakistan as an entity doesn't do anything, particularly given the fact that the Pakistani defense minister goes on Yalda Hakim's show on Sky News and says, we used to do the dirty work of the Americans. We used to harbor these camps. Now we don't want to do that anymore. That was before the seventh night. Yeah. There could have been an opening like, okay, let's talk about these camps. Why pretend that the airstrike was going to take care of it? You don't even tell us who these people were. Like, how do you know who they were? So the left should have taken that position, in a sense, divided the event and punishment for those who did the event with an attack at a country called Pakistan. That's the US war on terror mentality. Those who harbor terrorists are also terrorists. I mean, there were people on television in India saying Pakistan is a terrorist state. What that means is that Pakistan no longer follows the Westphalian laws. Now, that's an enormous concept, because that means that why would India allow the IMF to provide a loan if it's a terrorist state? Why didn't India block the loan to Pakistan? If it's a terrorist state, why does India, sit at the table with Pakistan at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? You can't do that. Like, it's not a terrorist state. Okay, it's definitely not. It follows the Westphalian laws. It's a legitimate country. It's a legitimate state. That's a very irresponsible way to consider power. But it's the US war on terror mentality. Remember, George W. Bush said, either you're with us, you're against us. And if you harbor terrorists, you're a terrorist. Yeah, from that logic, they said, say, Cuba is a terrorist state. That was the logic, yeah? Or Afghanistan is a terrorist state. That's the logic. So India followed that logic, and the left should have said, this is absolutely out of order. We have had a terrible terrorist incident in Pahalgam. We need to have justice for those who are killed. That means we need to find out who's doing these things and prosecute them and work with the Pakistanis if the defense minister makes that kind of comment. But the left didn't do that. I think what happens is when the so-called national mood drowns you, it becomes very hard to speak because you are underwater in a way. And you start saying things that are not very clear and are very confusing for people. But I take strong refuge in the Kisan Sabha statement, which I thought was terrific, and in the fact that there are lots of protests going on now, led by the left against the jingoism. So I think that the statements itself were weak, should have been stronger. I'm saying it directly to you. Yeah, they should have been much stronger. They should have distinguished the justice for the dead with this war on terror mentality vis-a-vis Pakistan.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's the reason why I didn't use the word left. I used communist parties because I my question was on them, because I was also aware that the Kisan Sabha, for our international viewers, is we are talking about the farmers. Constellation of organizations and unions. They definitely came out and had a much clearer and anti-war statement.
And that's the Communist Farmers Union.
That's true.
So that's important to mention. I mean, it's the Communist Farmers Union that has also signed on to BDS against Israel.